as far we have studied a lot of commanding languages of SQL, right from creating a database from scratch to inserting data into the table, giving transaction controls over there, as well as writing some queries. Now, when I want to give the privileges of the data, let's say I have a database and I want to share this database allowing certain privileges to another user. Then how I can maintain the privileges of the data, how I can maintain the access of the data as well as the control of the data, we are going to see over here. So the next commanding language which we are going to cover with respect to SQL is nothing but DCL, stands for Data Control Language. Let us first understand what is data control language, what are the commanding parts into data control language, and let's try to implement with the help of simplistic examples. So if you can see, we are going to discuss about something called as DCL. Now DCL as okay, so we are going to talk upon DCL. Now D in DCL stands for data, C stands for control, and L stands for language, as you know. Now we know that what's data. We know what's a language, but what is an element of C over here? As you know, that control. Now what is the meaning of control? Control in the sense how much a data should be given to someone or how much the data which is being provided should be taken back over there. Let's take an example. Imagine that today I am going and subscribing to Netflix. Now, when I enter my user ID and password, definitely Netflix is giving me some set of data to allow or to view or to make certain changes. Now, me being a user to view, I have a view membership which is being provided. That means that whatever series, whatever web shows I have that are being stored into Netflix would be available for me to view. One thing is they have given me the access of the privileges of the database where their shows, web series and movies are being stored across globe. Now, in those access, let's say tomorrow I want to see some movie. I went on that and I saw some movie. I didn't like it. Will I be able to delete that movie from their database? The answer would be no. Why? Because they have granted me the privileges of the data, but with certain restrictions, with certain controls which needs to be maintained by them. So that me as a user should not do any changes into their system or into their databases. Now, Netflix is not only storing data related to your movies and show, definitely it will have a customer base. Definitely it will have some revenue related data which are being stored. But when me as a user is logging in into Netflix, it is not allowing me to see that. So what does this means? This means that when a control of the data is being provided, we can allow or we can understand how much data should be shared, to whom it should be shared, and what kind of privileges do we are able to give to that particular user, to that particular user ID with respect to certain accesses and privileges. So that is what that is known as the control element of the databases. So it's not, if I carry further, let's say I have a 1 month membership. My month membership is done, which means all the database access would be taken back from me. That is, the access would be collected back again by the Netflix. And then once I have renewed my account, at that time, I will be getting back the access again. So here, if you can see, there is a control happening within the data, within the database, between the users and the server where the database is stored. That is known as a controlling part in a very simplistic and the real world example which we see on a daily basis. So when I talk upon control in terms of data control language, control means privileges. Means access, accounts, limitations, whatever the privileges of the data are supposed to be given. So data control language or DCL helps to understand the control over the privileges provided for data. So whatever other privileges are being provided for the data, they will be controlled with the help of DCL. The commanding parts of DCL is nothing but the first is known as grant. Now in simple English, what is the meaning of grant? Grant means giving. Grant will help us to give permissions. So giving permissions, giving or allowing the privileges. The privileges, or I can call it as granting the privileges for the data which are there. Just a second. So allowing or granting the privileges related to the data. So once a user ID and password is created, I can decide, okay, what amount of data should be given to that particular individual. That is the meaning of granting. Now it will not be there for the lifetime point of view. It will definitely be taken back from you as the work of that database is done, your time span is exceeded, or the work which was associated to you with respect to that data has been done. So the database is not available to you for lifetime, or certain privileges are taken back from you so that the changes are not being allowed. At that particular instance, we are going to see something called as revoke. Now what is the meaning of revoke in simple English? Revoking or taking back the given privileges. So I can say taking back the given privileges. Given privileges. That's what revoke as a statement is going to do in terms of grant and revoke. So this is a simplistic example of what does a data control language does. Now data control language in short will help me to allow and to access the amount of privileges to be given to a particular user and to be taken back from the particular user. That's what DCL is. Now we have understood these things theoretically. Let's try to see and implement those concepts practically, and let's try to observe, is DCL or grant and revoke helping me to give the privileges of the data or not. So for that, I'll go to the database. As you can see on my screen, DCL or data control language commands in SQL allows you to manage the access control by either granting the privileges to the user in a database or revoking back the privileges which are given. Now the granting is either done by the root password which we created when we installed it. The user was created as root, which has all the access of the data, or by creating a users manually, which we will create and we will see how it works. So we are going to see two commanding paths, grant and revoke. How does it work? For that, let us first create a user. Now how to create a user over here? As I have a root by default, if you can see on your home screen, you can see the user over here. I'm using an SQL masterclass connection, and you can also see that's a by default connection made local instance, and both of them are having the same user. If you want to see what is a username, you can see an icon which is a human icon. That means it is a username. What is a username for both the connections which I have? Root. Now root as a user is a basic user which is available right from the beginning, right from when the server is being created. What if I want to create my own username and ID and password for the same? So let us see how we can connect and how we can create the one for us. So if I go on this instance, I'm going on SQL Masterclass. You can see in the administration point of view, there is an option of users and privileges. So from here also you can create users and privileges which are there, or you can go to the server settings. Now there are, in the administration point of view, as I said, you can click on this and you'll get an option for creating the same. But let's not create it from here. Let me create it from the server point of view. So this is my part, and I'll go into the server, and in that server there is an option of users and privileges. So I can go and I can create a user from here as well. Now you can see the users which are by default available. MySQL info schema, localhost, session, localhost, sys, localhost, and you can see there is a user which is created by default. Now I want to create a new user over here. So how to create a new user? There is an option of add account. Once I go and do add account, which is there, now you can give a new username over here. So by default, it's a new user, or I can call it as user1. So I give the name as user1. Here I can give the password for the same. Let me give a very simplistic password so that we can use it and utilize it for the further point of view. You can give the password as your requirement, as your necessities. I'm giving a simple password as 12345 because I will use this user and ID password again and again. So 12345 is what I have given. 12345. I've given this, and then I do apply. Once I do apply, can you see a new user created with a name as user1, and you can see it's created from the host. So this is percentage symbol, which means it's created by me, not by the server. So this is created by a human. This is a user ID which is being created. Now remember your user ID and password which was there. So I have created it. Before granting or revoking, creating a user is must. Let's see the statement of grant. Now what is the meaning of grant? Grant allows to give access. Just a second. Yeah. Grants allows to give access or privileges of data. So grant is allowing me to give access or permissions or privileges related to data. So let us see how. So in order to grant, what I have to do? Grant. But before granting, you have to be very specific that which database you want to grant the privileges upon. So for a safer side, I know Imarticus as a database is selected, but still on a safer side, I'll still write use Imarticus. So I've written use Imarticus, and the Imarticus database is in use. Now imagine that I want to give the privilege for students as a table. So what I want? Grant what? Grant, and in that grant you have to mention what? You have to mention something. What do you want to give? The privileges. What kind of privileges you want to give? You want to give select, you want to give info, you want to give, select, you want to give delete, you want to give update, you want to give view, whatever privileges you want to give, you have to mention over here. So you can write what? Select. You can write what? Let's say select. Then you can write what? Update. You can write what? Insert. You can write what? Delete. So all kind of privileges could be provided. Let's give a select statement. Select is the privilege which I want to give on. Where do I want to give this privileges? Now I will mention the table name, that is on students. Now to whom I want to give the privileges. So I'll write to and the user ID. What I've created, the username is user1. So what is happening over here? Granting. I am granting the permissions or the privileges. What kind of permissions I am granting? Select statements, which means a DQL permission is being granted over there. On what table? On the students table. To what? To the user1. So the user1 which I created, I am granting or giving the permissions related to what? Select. And I execute the statement. What you can see? Grant select on students to user1 is executed successfully. Now permission has been granted. How I will see that whatever permissions have been granted, are they correct or not? Am I able to write the statements or not? For that, let me go to home, and in the database, you can see there is an option of connect to database. Here, instead of, the stored connection, you can make the stored connection, whatever it is, or instead of your root, I have to write user1, the new user which I created, and I do OK. For that, this is asking a password for me, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. If you remember, I kept a very simple password so that I can use it again and again. And I do OK. So here you can see I have got, there is a new instance open. If you can see above, MySQL @ and there is a new instance which is being opened. Can you see only Imarticus as a database is available? If I open it, only which table is available for me? Students. Why? Because when I wanted to give a permissions or the privileges, I said that from the Imarticus database, I wrote use Imarticus. So from that database, it has given me the privileges only on students. Now, what kind of privileges are being provided? The select privileges, which means I can write the DQL statements. Let us do use Imarticus. Yes, Imarticus is in use. And can I write select star from students? Am I able to write that? Yes, you can see a students table, which is possible. Let's say I want to write the students, or I want to see the students who are female. So where gender equals to, if I do female, am I able to see that? Yes, all kind of select statements are ideally possible. If I can zoom in, yeah. Now let me try to insert data into this insert table. So let me do insert, and I say that insert into which table? Into students. Now what I wanted to insert, let's say I wanted to insert student name, student space name. What I want to insert again is age. What I want to insert is city. What I wanted to insert, let's say I don't want to insert an email ID. Let's say contact is what I wanted to insert. And let's say gender of that individual I wanted to insert. And I'll write what? Values. So I'm inserting values over here. What is the name of the student which I want to insert? Let's say Siley. What is the age of the student? Let's say 27. What is the city of the student? Let's say Pune. What is the contact number of the student? Let's say 8190452833. I've given the number, and let's say she's a female. I try to insert this data. Now when I execute this, can you see an error occurred? If I show you what is there, there is an error occurred. What is this error telling me? Insert command denied to user. Why it is giving me that error? Because when I granted the permission or gave the permissions or the privileges related to data, did I allow the inserting statements over there? No. I said that I will grant only the permission related to select or writing the queries or finding the queries or the outcomes related to the same. So insert command denied to user 1. So I have not given any command related to insert into the students table. That's what, and that's how the granting is working. It is only allowing me to select, but it is not allowing me to insert a new data. So as I told you an example, that when Netflix is giving me the data, it is only giving me to view the data. It is not allowing me to make any changes or make any updations. So this kind of integrity or this kind of security could be maintained with the help of grant and revoke, which is there. Let us see, let us add few more parts. So I'll close this. Here you can see on the, so where I am giving in SQL master. This is a super user where the main user, where main data is being stored in the root. From root, I am giving the permissions of user 1, user 2 and many more things. So that has been given. Let's say I say grant. Let's say I'm giving one more permission, that is insert and delete. I want to give two permissions, that is one is insertion and one is what? Deletion. On which table? On students table, which is there. Now, to whom I want to give this permission? Again to user 1. And I do it. Here you can see you're not allowed to give a permission to the user. But why there is a permission denied over here? Because of the case sensitivity of the username. Now, usernames need to be mentioned how you have been created. I have created a username where the U is capital. I gave a username where the U was small. And that's why it was telling me you are not allowed to create a user with grant. You have to create a pre-created user. You cannot create it with grant. So when I give now you can see that it's possible. Just because the usernames what you created on the server needs to be mentioned as it is. You cannot have the case sensitivity not affecting on that. The case sensitivity does affect on the usernames that you have to keep in mind. So I have given insert and delete to the user. Let us see how does it works or is it working or not. So on the database, again, I'll go to connect to database. And here, instead of user name, I'll give what? User 1. I'll do OK. And it is asking me password 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. And I do OK, which is there. And you can see Imarticus as a database is available. Not all databases are available. So I'll say use Imarticus. And what kind of tables I have? I have only students table. Let me see if it is allowing me to insert or not. Let me zoom in. So I'll do select star from students. As I know, select query or select approaches are given to me. So I can view the table however I want. But what if I want to now see if the insertion and deletion operations are being possible or not? For that, let me see insert into which table do you want to insert? Students. And what do you want to insert? Let's say the name of the student. So as I said, student name. Then what I want to insert? I want to insert the age. I want to insert the city. Let's say I don't want to insert the email ID. I want to insert the gender. Let's have those things added for the same. And I'll write what? Values. In that values, let's say name of the student. I mentioned Siley I want to insert data for. Then you can see age. Now age is 25 of that student. City, let's say city is Pune. And the gender is female over here. Now Siley is already a user as you can see over here. But user with the same name is possible. I have not added unique for a username. Or let's say the student name, not the username particularly. So when I do this, can you see now the row is affected? Can I see the students table? Is Siley added at the below? Yes, it is added, which is possibly available. Email was not given, so not available. Contact number is blank, and this is how the data was inserted. So am I able to insert the data now? Yes, because the user was given a privilege not only for select but also for inserting the data which we have been seen. Now we also gave a permission for delete statements. That is, if I want to delete certain rows or set of rows. Let us see that is it working or not. You all must be knowing that delete as a statement is helpful to delete particular rows based on criteria or condition. So delete from where I have to delete the data? I want to delete the data from students. So delete from students and I say where. Where, let us see, in the student's ID, which is there. What is an ID for Siley? 117. So SID, let's say I'll do SID and the data which I inserted 117. Is it able to delete? Yes. And if I see select star from students over here, here you can see the info for Siley has been deleted. So the row which was inserted has been eliminated from here now. So granting was allowing me to give these privileges in that manner. So it depends on me if I want to grant the privileges of the data, how I want to grant it, and how I want to make use of those privileges on certain tables or certain set of tables. So this was granting. Now definitely I have granted some permissions and I don't want this permission to be given to the user anymore. I want to take back the permissions which are there. And for that, what I will be seeing is, I'll go to the server, I'll close this. So I'll close this. I'll go to the server where I have granted and I'll see a statement known as what? Revoke. Now what is the purpose of revoke? Revokes or in simple terms, or takes back the given privileges. Takes back the given privileges. So whatever privileges were given will be taken back. So I'll write what? Revoke. Now revoke what? Insert, update, delete, or you want to revoke all. So you can write a keyword as all as well, but let's try to revoke insert and delete over here. So I'm revoking insert and delete on what? Students. Now instead of to, I'm not giving. So to means to give. I will be revoking it from that user. So I will write as in the simple English. If I give, so I'll write to. If I want to take, so I want to take it from whom. So I'll write from, and here I'll write the user one, the username, and it's being affected, which means it's correct. So if I go to database, connect to database, instead of the root, what I will write is user one. So that's being there. Okay. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. And I do okay. Here you can see, I'll write use Imarticus. And if I try to insert the data, so as you can see, let me see the data. Select star, let me zoom in. From what? From the students. If I see, yes, I can get the data. I have revoked the insert and delete permissions or the privileges which were given. So what I am doing over here is, let me try to insert data. Insert into students which were there. And here I write student name. I write, let's say, age and gender. This is what I have written. I am inserting certain states, let's say values. And what I am inserting, let's say I'll insert another student details, that is Rashi. Age is 26. And then I say the gender of Rashi is nothing but female. If I want to insert this data, here you can see insert command denied to the user. Earlier, the permissions and privileges were given for insertion, but here I have to back the given privileges or the given permissions related to insert and delete. So it will not allow me to use that insert and delete again. So that's how the permissions which were given could be taken back from the user. This is how revoke as a statement is going to work. So let us see with delete as well, because I took permissions from delete as well. So delete from students. And I had a student ID as 116. Let me see if I am able to delete that student entry. So 116. Here you can see delete command denied to user 1 because it's not being given again. So the permissions are being denied for your delete as well. But can I see select over here? Yes, because select permissions are still there working. So select star from students and I'll write what, where. Let me write gender equals to female. If I want to see the data for the same, yes. So select statements are working, but the insert and delete privileges which I provided to the data are being taken back. So this is how simplistic approach of grant and revoke is being seen. So what is the meaning of granting? Granting means granting the privileges and permissions for data. What is the meaning of revoking? Revoking means taking back the given privileges which were given to a particular user. You can take back all the privileges. You can take back certain privileges which are there. So this is how we saw with a simplistic example. I just wanted to show with one more use case that how a grant and revoke is being given for a particular user and how an entire database could be granted for the same. So when I go over here in server, I'll create a new user. Let's say I'll go in users and privileges and I'll create a new user known as add account. And I'll create this new user as, let's say user 2. I'll create the user as user 2 and I write the password as Imarticus. Imarticus. I wrote the password and I did apply. Can you see one more user is created named as user 2? So when I take this user and I want to give the privileges but without writing any code aspect of the data, so what I'll do, user 2, here there was a login page, just select that user where you want to give the privileges. You'll get the login page, a login tab. Just beside login tab, you'll get accounts and limits. So you can limit that how many queries, how many updates, how many connections, how many concurrent connections this user can make. Administrative roles, what kind of roles do you want to give? If you want to give all the rows, you can select all the rows over here. Schemas and privileges. So what kind of schemas? What is the meaning of schema? A logical representation of your data or a representation of your data within a database. That is a schematic representation. So I want to add a schema privileges. So I'll do add entry. You can do all schema. You can do schemas with pattern matching, means certain pattern is being matched by the schema that would be given to the user, or you want to give a particular schema. Particular schema means a particular database needs to be given over here. So selected schema I give and I went to classic models. Let's say I want to give this Imarticus as a schema to them and I'll do OK. Once I do OK, you can see privileges. I've selected the schema to be available as Imarticus. But what kind of privileges I've given? None. So I've given none privileges. If I select this, user, delete, execute, show view, create, alter, references, let's say, which is there. Let me this. So let me do select all over here. I'll do a grant option. Everything I'm giving. So I did. And let's say apply. So I've applied the schema to the user which is there. Now let me go over here and make a connection. So I'll make a connection over here, a new connection where I can get this user. I'll write new connection. This connection name could be anything. It depends on you. Now instead of root, I'll write the user 2. I have to, as I said, you have to match the name which you have provided when you created a user. User 2, test connection. What is the password? I gave it as Imarticus. And let's say do OK. It's made connection successfully and OK. Your new connection is being created. And if you can see, all the databases are given. If there is some case, go into the master. Just revoke all privileges. Let me revoke all the privileges. Let me add entry. It was not properly given. Take this. I'll do it Imarticus and do OK. Let me select all the privileges which were there. Apply. Okay. I'll go to this connection. I can refresh and you can see only Imarticus as a database was given and all kind of permissions are given to the same. So I can double select it. You can see now earlier which I did with grant, it was giving me one table. I showed an approach of giving one table, or you can add multiple tables, that's your choice. But when I want to give an entire database, this is one way to do it. So here you can see whatever data was stored into Imarticus as a database, it was not only students, but we had course, we had course info, we had scores, we had employees related data, we have other details related data. So that has also been available into this. So this is how grant works. Let me go to the super user from where we granted the data. So that's my SQL masterclass. So I went over here, I did revoke all privileges. So I'm revoking all the privileges which were given. I went to new connection. Let me refresh it again. So you cannot connect to database. Let me close it. All the permissions are being revoked. So here if I go in new connection, I open it. I have to give the password. Let's say Imarticus. and I do OK. With that, you can see no privilege of the database is being provided. Why? Because the privileges which were given are being taken back. So this is how grant and revoke will help me to grant the privileges of the data in order to make the manipulation changes or viewing the data, and then how the privileges which were being provided could be taken back with the statement of revoke. We saw with simplistic approaches that how it will be possible with a practical use case. So this was all about grant and revoke. And this is how DCL commands will help me to control or maintain the control or the access of the data which is shared across multiple users when you have to work upon certain tasks. So I hope we are clear with what is DCL commands, how does DCL commands work, and what is the use case of grant and revoke.